Hi, thank you for joining the board meeting tonight. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. When you joined, you heard as an audience member that you are in listen-only mode. You cannot unmute yourself. However, I can unmute you to speak during public comment. So if you would like to speak during public comment, please raise your hand using the raise your hand function. It looks like a little hand icon on your screen, and I will unmute you so you will be able to speak. Please know that your webcam will still remain off, so you will be audio only. And now I will turn things over to President Coyne to begin the meeting.
Thank you. I am calling to order the regular board meeting of the Park Ridge Park District Board of Park Commissioners. Today is Thursday, March 4th, 2021, and it is 7:01 p.m. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Grau?
Here.
Commissioner Harrington?
Here.
Commissioner Leduc?
Here.
Commissioner Leach?
Here.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Here.
Commissioner Tunnell?
Here.
Commissioner Coyne?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone like to amend, add, or delete an item to the current agenda? Hearing none. We'll move on. Is there any member of the public who would like to comment on any non-agenda item?
I have nobody raising their hand.
Hello?
Someone just said hello, but I don't know who that was.
Hello? It's Terry. I don't know what happened. I lost all connections, so I'm calling in now.
Oh, okay. But you don't have a comment on a non-agenda item?
I don't. Sorry about that.
Okay. No, it's all right. Okay. Great. That being the case, we will move on to buildings and grounds with Commissioner O'Donnell. I turn the floor to you, sir.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion. I move to approve Lakeshore Recycling Systems, LLC as the lowest responsible bidder for the waste and recycling bid in the total amount of $29,632.90, and to authorize the executive director to execute and deliver such agreement. This action will be formally ratified at an actual board meeting with physical presence at a later date. May I have a second?
I second.
Okay, Terry, before we have discussion, would you like to talk about this a little bit?
I just would point out that I've got a memo on page 1 of the board packet. Well, I guess it's page 3 of the board packet. This bid is something we have to do every so often. We've been using Lakeshore Recycling Systems for the last several years and have been happy with their services. And this is within our budget for the year.
Any discussion? I have a few, but I'll defer to this first. Go ahead, Matt.
I just have a question, Terry. If you could just kind of briefly, I hope, explain what the deficiencies were in the other bid. Obviously, their bid was quite a bit lower, and so that's kind of what caused my attention. And so I just kind of like to know what were the things that were missing, because you mentioned that in your memo.
Yeah, they actually withdrew the bid because of they had errors. They didn't check their work before they entered it into the bid form, and so when I started reviewing it and looking over their unit prices, it became quickly apparent to me that based on the unit prices they had offered, like for example the 20-yard roll-off waste dumpster, recycle dumpster, that indicated to me what their cost per haul was. And when I started to calculate what the number of hauls were going to be required for the year, the total base bid that they offered wouldn't have even covered their anticipated costs for the Oakton area. So when I asked them to make sure that comply with all the parts of the contract and I started talking through the frequencies of the polls and locations, I could hear the gentleman saying, "Oh no." He quickly understood that they had made some errors somewhere in entering their numbers, and so they realized they couldn't comply with that and they had to withdraw their bid.
Anybody else? So I had a couple of questions, Superintendent Wolf. How does this bid compare to what we paid last year?
We're overall it's pretty much in line, but it's a little bit less on a monthly basis. This bid, and the reason that it's a little bit lower, appears a little lower, is it covers a portion of the year, so it's about 10 months of the year, but it's still within our budget. One of the reasons that we had some cost savings this year was we relocated our dumpsters from the Hinckley maintenance garage over to the Oakland property. And the reason we did that was we were looking for some space over at Hinckley in the yard because it's pretty tight quarters over there. But in doing so, we didn't need the duplicative dumpsters over at Oakton. And since the amount of garbage that they were producing on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, is really minimal, that amount of garbage is going to fit into the dumpsters that we would use for all of our other park services. So the budget at Oakton got the benefit of, I believe it was about a $3,000 savings because we didn't need to add those dumpsters as well. So we're pretty close, but we're actually a little bit less than what we paid in 2020.
And is it typical that there would be only a couple of bidders or only one?
Yeah, that's been the case the last couple of times we've bid this. And I know that years ago we used to use other companies, and once we started working with Lakeshore, I think a lot of times what happens is the contractors know that, you know, they go up against Lakeshore and other locations, and they just don't feel like it's going to be worth their energy because they probably aren't going to beat their pricing, and so they'll just save themselves the time from bidding.
And my last question would be I know what you're saying is their numbers didn't make any sense, but there were really some strange variations line by line. And so did you consider, was there any worth to allowing them to correct their bid and resubmit it?
I don't believe that's allowable, but I'll let Dirk correct me on that.
Yeah, no can do. There was a case brought to us by Evanston, a court case called Keefe Shea versus Evanston. What you get in the bid package is what you get. You have to evaluate it for being responsive, and that's according to the rules you set in there. And in the particular case, they forgot to include a third letter, even though they had 20 of them back home of references. They forgot to include the third one, and the Supreme Court said everybody's constitutional due process rights are at stake. So you're not allowed to do that kind of correction of what's in the bid package. So, and just to double back on the other thing, there's been an incredible amount of consolidation in the solid waste world. You know, I'm Swank's lawyer, which is for Park Ridge. That's who handles your garbage. Whoever picks it up brings it to that cooperative transfer station in Glenview. And the consolidation, the two, number 1 and number 3 just merged. Allied and Waste just merged. And the team that the Justice Department made spin off garbage doesn't have any trucks in Cook County. That's the Justice Department. So the number of people competing for it is really low now.
So the one thing that I will clear up, and you'll notice in my memo and even in the bid form that there was a computational error corrected. That is permissible. So it's not just 100% what you get is what you get, but in the bid documentation, it's allowable that if there's a clear-cut and understood computational error in this situation with the Lakeshore Recycling, there was, whereby they had 5 months of service or whatever the number was, and they had identified the number of months, and it just was very clear that the two didn't, you know, equal to the right number. So that was permissible.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Superintendent Wolf? Hearing none, Mary Ann, could you please call the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Grau,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrington,
Yes.
Commissioner Ledoux,
Yes.
Commissioner Leach,
Abstain?
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion regarding the Main Park Leisure Center switchgear replacement. So I move to approve Fitzgerald Lighting and Maintenance as the lowest responsible bidder for the Main Park Leisure Center switchgear replacement bid in the total amount of $104,000. And to authorize the executive director to execute and deliver such agreement. This action will be formally ratified at an actual board meeting with physical presence at a later date. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Superintendent Wolf, would you care to comment on this one?
I will just point out that, as you can see in my memo, this came in under budget, and that the base bid does include a $10,000 allowance that from time to time isn't needed and can be returned as well.
Is there any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, Mary Ann, please call the roll.
Sure. Commissioner Harrington,
Yes.
Commissioner Ledoux,
Yes.
Commissioner Leach,
Yes?
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Grau,
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to move on then to the issue of the Northwest Park baseball netting renovation bid summary. I move to reject the Northwest Park baseball netting renovation bid that was received, as the bid exceeds the budget available for the project. This action will be formally ratified at an actual board meeting with physical presence at a later date. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Superintendent Wolf, do you have any further discussion on this item?
I just wanted to point out that, as mentioned, this is over our budget. We did have just one bid, so this did cause us to, discuss with Park Ridge Youth Baseball, as we mentioned at the last meeting, that we would do in the event that it came in over budget. And we're going to revisit the scope and see what we can do to get this project to work within a budget that makes sense. And we've already come up with a couple of ideas, and we expect to be rebidding this project with a revised scope sometime in the near future.
Does anybody have any questions for Superintendent Wolf on this one?
I'm just curious, Superintendent Wolf, does this obviously impact timing on the project going forward? And we're entering into season to use that the fields there. Would this push that back?
Well, so the anticipated project timeline was after the season, actually. So we're still hopeful that we can hit our project timeline. We were planning on beginning, I believe it was August 1st. And we had about a 6 to 7 week time frame to complete the work. So we still feel like there is an opportunity for that.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Hearing none, Mary Ann, please call the roll.
Sure. Commissioner Ledoux,
Yes.
Commissioner Leach,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Grau,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrington,
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the approval of the Centennial Activity Center Fire Alarm Design Agreement with FGM Architects. I move to approve an agreement not to exceed $26,532 with FGM Architects for the design, engineering, bid documentation, permitting, and construction management assistance of a new fire alarm system at the Centennial Activity Center, and to authorize the executive director to execute and deliver such agreement. This action will be formally ratified at an actual board meeting with physical presence at a later date. May I have a second?
Second.
Superintendent Wolf, would you care to comment on this one?
I'd be happy to answer any questions there might be though.
Okay, we covered this one at length in the last meeting. Does anybody have any further questions or discussion on it? Okay, hearing none. Mary Ann, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Leach,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Grau,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrington,
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc,
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the last one. This has to do with the approval of the Hinckley Park Sport Lighting Design and Development Agreement with Upland Design. I move to approve an agreement not to exceed $44,700 with Upland Design for the design, engineering, bid documentation, permitting, and construction management assistance related to the ball field lighting renovations at Hinckley Park, and to authorize the executive director to execute and deliver such agreement. This action will be formally ratified at an actual board meeting with physical presence at a later date. May I have a second?
Second.
Superintendent Wolf.
I'd be happy to answer any questions on this.
Commissioner Grau.
Yeah, just wondering how you chose Upland Design.
We were working with Upland on the overall master planning project. The outdoor athletic field lights were originally part of that project, so they had already done some initial look at this, and we just decided it makes sense to continue working with them since they already had some knowledge of the project.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Hearing none. Mary Ann, please call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Grau,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrington,
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc,
Yes.
Commissioner Leach,
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne.
Aye.
Thank you.
So with that, I yield the floor back to President Coyne.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Donnell. Is there any new business? Commissioner Leduc.
It's not so much new business as I had a question for Superintendent Armour. I was wondering if there was news on when the summer camp schedule would be out. I've had 2 or 3 people message me in the past week asking that question.
Yes, the guide will be out. Let's see. I believe on the 29th.
Yeah, 29.
Yeah, with registration on April 5th.
Great, thank you.
Margaret did get some info out on social media, and we had it on the cover of our spring brochure, but maybe that was missed. We decided to postpone a little bit, so we just because of all of the unknowns, but we're looking at all of our information now, and we got our first draft today. So
fantastic. Thank you.
Anything else? Any other new business? I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, I guess I'd have to do that. I move to adjourn the meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners.
Second.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Grau,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrington,
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc,
Yes.
Commissioner Leach,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne.
Aye,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
20 minutes.
Wow.
Good job.
Night.
Thank you.
I want to know the
Night.
dollar per minute of meeting we just spent, but that's okay. We can talk about that later. All
Have a
right,
good night, everyone.
everybody have a good
Night.
night. Thank you.
Thank you.